All right, a quick little cell phone video. Several people have asked how I insulated the garage door. It's a very uneventful, quick, easy, boring process, so I didn't make a video on it. I'll try and keep this short. I used two of these kits right here, Matador garage door installation kits. A little bit more pricey than what I wanted to pay, but whatever. Two of these kits for this size door. This is a 7-foot tall, 16-foot wide door, and each kit does half of the door. So it's crazy simple. You just literally you cut the foam and stick it in there, basically. What the kit says to do is this bracket right here is open on one side, closed on the right-hand side in this orientation. So the instructions say to measure the distance in here, cut a piece of foam, slide that particular piece of foam in place, and then you cut this panel to fit, and it just sits into place. And I did that for the first column right here, but I wasn't too happy with my seam right here showing, so I figured if I'm going to mess up once, I may mess up a couple more times, and didn't want this seam to be visible. So for the rest of these, what I did is, instead of cutting a small piece to go in here, I measured from the right-hand side all the way over to that side, and I cut my piece about 1/4 of an inch less than that. That way I could bend the piece in into the door panel here and get it about halfway in, flatten this side, push the whole panel inside of this particular piece of metal, and then finish fitting it in right here. And then I was left with like a 1/4 inch gap right there, and then just push it back to this side. That way that's nice and, well, pretty much flush with that vertical piece. And then in here, which doesn't really matter because this is a kind of a closed off piece of metal, but in here I've got like a 1/4 inch gap right here. Not the end of the world. I'd much rather have the 1/4 inch gap behind this piece of metal than have a 1/4 inch gap on right this side as well as right here, because you can see this gap right there. So whatever. I mean, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. And I also found it easier to not have to cut a bunch of extra pieces and slide the extra in there. Just make one cut and be done with it, squeeze it in place, slide it over, and position it where you want. So that's it. I mean, that's pretty boring answer, but, and then of course you got to cut around a couple. I've got it blocked off. I'm not going to go through the hassle of showing you, but like the door lock here, you got to cut around it a little bit here and there. It took me about an hour to do. Really boring. Not a way to make an exciting video out of it, so whatever. It's made a big difference though. Before, this whole garage door, you could get close to it and that whole area would be colder. That area and over there would be a little bit colder. The heater is right there, and as it blows air, and the whole path of it is nice and warm, but once you get to here, and here was colder, now it is not. It's much more even temperature in here. And I've noticed that the heater has cycled on and off less. So this is definitely worth it in my opinion. Also, one of the biggest things you can do with these doors, I found out last year when I put the air conditioner in, was I put some outside weather stripping around the outside of the door, and just that alone, keeping the air from blowing through the door itself, left and right, and then also up here at the top seam, that made a huge difference. So if you can stop the draft, that's number one. Number two is to stop the transfer through the walls. And that made a big difference. These walls are not insulated, but you've got sheetrock, then the internal cavity, then you got OSB, then I've got the house wrap around that, and then on top of that I've got the vinyl siding. So it's not insulated, but there's quite a bit of stuff that air needs to transfer through, or heat needs to transfer through. So I'm not entirely worried about that. I don't live in a crazy cold climate, and in the summertime, this thing has no problem keeping up in here. Also, I don't have the ceiling insulated at all. I need to do that. I don't know if I'll get around to doing it anytime soon, but this little guy has been keeping up quite well in both the winter and summer months here where I live. It's an 18,000 BTU quiet side unit. It's a air conditioner and heat pump, outside heat pump unit. So anyway, quick little video. I didn't make a video on insulating the garage door because, well, there's not much to it and it's boring. Take care. I'll talk to you guys in a couple days.